Hi everyone, this week we're going to go over a little bit of MLA formatting, and I know some of you are already familiar with it, but I just want to make sure that we've covered some of the basics so that way you can become comfortable with it. Now, if you mess up on the MLA formatting with this particular paper, don't worry, we're just starting out with it, so I'm expecting a few mistakes. I'll just ask you to correct them for the revision. It's not going to cost you your A or B or whatever if you mess up on the formatting. But I do think it's really important that we start getting into good MLA habits, especially for next semester. So a few things I just want to point out. Now, this is an example paper that you're going to be looking at and evaluating for your reflection this week. So I'm not going to read it to you, but I'm going you to at least pay attention to the formatting because you'll be reading it on your own. So that would be really boring if I read it to you. First thing I want you to notice right off the bat is that I have a header here. And what I don't want you to do is when you're creating this is going into inserts right here, clicking on this header and creating it that way, because then it's going to be on every single page and we don't want that. So just start by saying sample student, instructor name. Oh, don't put sample student, put your own name, obviously. Instructor name, the course. So in this case, you do not have to put the specific section. Pay attention to that though, because sometimes professors want that specific section, especially if they're asking you to turn in a hard copy and not to electronically, like via email or D2L, because that's how they keep up with it. So if they're getting 80 papers, they need to know which student goes with which class, and that's just something that a lot of them will require. So pay attention to that when you have subsequent classes. Notice that the date is day, month, year, not month, day, year like we're used to. There is, you will have page numbers, and you do want to use the page number function in Word. So you want to click page number, top of page, plain number 3. Make sure that you also include your last name. In this case, since we're doing sample student, we'll do student 1. And then that will populate it on every page. Sometimes students try to just insert them themselves. And a lot of times when that happens, if you have to make a correction, it might bump down that page number and it just winds up looking a little bit funky. So use the page number function, insert page number function in Word. Notice it has a title, McDonald's, A Tale of Two Advertisements. Try to come up with a catchy title. It doesn't have to be anything overly fancy, but please just don't title it My Genre Analysis. Have something that indicates what this paper is going to be about. And in this case, it's like, oh, you're going to be looking at McDonald's advertisements. Awesome. It gives you an idea. So the other really, really important thing that I'm going to want to be you to do and that I'll be looking for in this particular paper is the works cited. Now, notice here, I did not, like my paper ends halfway through page 3. I did not start the works cited page here. I went on down, clicked on down, hit enter till I got to page 4, and I was able to create a works cited page here. Now, how do you create these citations? One, there is a guide in your book, but you don't necessarily have to use that particular guide in your book. You can use something online, but I also have a cheat sheet for you. So what I have here is basically the order and the format that you will need for this particular paper or for these particular citations. In MLA, it always goes in this order: author, title as source, title a container, contributor, version, number, publisher, publication date, and location. And here's the thing with MLA. If it's not listed, you do not have to put it. So if there's not an author or creator, because sometimes, especially with artwork, it's not considered an author, it's a creator, you don't have to put it. If it doesn't have, usually you only see like versions, numbers, and stuff like that when it comes to academic articles or books. So again, you don't have to put it if it's not there. So let's take a look at some of the advertisements that I used. So this particular one, it's a poster, has a Big Mac on it, the thing you want when you order a salad. And I picked it because I kind of thought it was a little funny. So if we go down here, we see that it does have an art director, this Hugo Gristine. And he created this for McDonald's. And so when I'm creating my Works Cited page, I use him in the author place because he created it. And then the title is McDonald's the Thing You Want. Notice that it is put in quotation marks, and that's because it's a small work. And so we want to make sure that we're acknowledging that it's a title and it needs to be formatted correctly. Now, it was published on a website called AdRuby, so I included that. And then it's also got a publisher, or sorry, that's the title of the container, is the website where it was published. And then it also has a publisher. So if you look down here, it was the Miami Ad School in Berlin. So I put that in there, and the location. So that's the website where I found it. And so if I were grading this, I would be able to click on that and go to the ad and discover it. Now, the other one that I picked was a YouTube video, and YouTube can get kind of tricky because it don't always have authors or creators, and it depends on if it's an interview, and we're going to get into all that later. I don't think you're going to have to worry about that for this particular assignment. But in this case, it doesn't really have an author, so I used the title, which is McDonald's Commercial 2018. And then YouTube is the container where it was published, and then SN is the publisher. So when I go down through here, oops, sorry, I had lots of windows open. You can see how I put that in there. And it also has a publication date, which is also important to note. So the publication date is July 6, 2018, but notice I switched it to MLA formatting, so it's 6 July 2018. And then, of course, down here I have the location, so I can click on that and look at the advertisement and know exactly what this person was talking about in the paper. One really interesting thing to note about an analysis. Oh, wait, sorry, I forgot one thing. Got ahead of myself. So notice here too with YouTube, I formatted it. So YouTube does need to be formatted because it's considered a large container. And so in this case, you would publish it. Now, AdRuby, I probably need to go back and do that as well. So that's an easy peasy way to fix it, making sure that you've got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Now, with an analysis, the number one complaint I get from students is that it sounds so dull and it doesn't really flow, and it, yes, all of the above. Because usually what happens in an analysis, you are asked to analyze certain elements, and those elements sometimes are not fully related. So how do you make them flow better? An easy way to do that is using headers. And so, or subheaders. And so right here, I have my opening paragraph. And then if you recall from the prompt, I asked you to kind of describe the genres that you picked, the advertisements. And so here I have a description. And then I have a paragraph where it talks about what it's like. Now there's no set rule for what these have to look like as long as it's consistent. So here I have description. And then down here, I move into the rhetorical situation. So I create another header, rhetorical situation, that lets the reader know, oh, we're going to talk about something different here. It creates that transition. So that way you don't have to try to do it within the paragraphs, especially if you're talking about things like jumping from one thing to the next and they aren't overly related. Now, what would be wrong is if you underline this after you had bolded that. That wouldn't be correct in MLA. As long as it is consistent, that is what they're going to be looking for. And that goes across the board. So like here, just to show you that this happens in the real world, right here is an article. It was published on PubMed, and it's got a lovely title, The Good, the Bad, and the Environment, Developing an Area-Based Measure of Access to Health-Promoting and Health-Constraining Environments in New Zealand. It just kind of popped up, so I went with it. So one thing I want you to notice here, though, is how it's divided. And you'll see this a lot, especially on health articles, because there is a certain format, certain things that they have to cover when these analyses are published. So usually they have, let me go back up, an abstract with a background, methods, results, conclusions. Notice that you have these little subheadings here, so that way the reader knows, oh, here we're going to be talking about background. Here we're going to be talking about the methods that they used, and here are the results, and these are the conclusions that we came to. And this helps organize the paper and gives it structure and flow, especially when these elements might not make sense if you took out those headers and you're just reading it going, oh no, what am I talking about now? That's why you use them. And that's why I encourage you to use them in your paper. So again, you get down in here, it has an introduction, methods, all these things kind of help you see what they're talking about. And that's what you can use in your own analysis, because as I said, all medical articles are an analysis of data. And so think of your essay like this. This is an analysis of data that you have collected. So by putting in those little subheaders right here is going to help your paper flow better. It's going to help with the organization, and it's going to help your reader know where you are and give it that structure. So for your assignment this week, I want you to read this lovely attempt at a genre analysis. Now, is it perfect? No. But one thing I want you to know as you're reading through this is that it hits the notes. It hits the elements of the prompt. And in this particular assignment, that's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm not looking for some great oration. I'm looking for, did you hit all the elements of the prompt, and did you give enough detail in your descriptions from your genres to defend what you're saying? So that's what you're going to be kind of analyzing for your assignment today. And if you have any questions or concerns, as always, please just let me know.